Hello and welcome to Whispered Legends. I am your storyteller, and I'm thrilled to have you here. Get ready to journey into tales of mystery, adventure, and the unknown. If you love stories that spark your imagination, you're in the right place. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss a whisper. Now, let's begin today's tale. Sarah had always been drawn to antique shops, fascinated by the stories hidden in old, forgotten things. One rainy afternoon, she wandered into a tiny shop nestled on a quiet street, the air inside heavy with the scent of aged wood and dust. As she wandered through the cluttered aisles, her eyes landed on a mirror framed in gold. It was unlike anything she had ever seen. Ornate carvings covered the edges, delicate flowers intertwined with twisting vines. The surface of the glass shimmered strangely, like it was pulling her in. The elderly shopkeeper, who had been watching her from behind a counter, approached her with a slow, deliberate gait. His eyes seemed too knowing as he spoke in a raspy whisper, "That mirror, it's been passed down through generations. It's not just for seeing yourself. Be careful with it." Sarah, intrigued but dismissive, smiled politely. "I'll take it," she said, eager to add such a unique piece to her collection. That evening, after hanging the mirror in her living room, Sarah felt a strange sense of unease. The mirror was stunning in the dim light, but something felt wrong. She dismissed it as her imagination and decided to relax. But as she walked past it, she couldn't shake the feeling that the reflection wasn't quite right. Her own image in the mirror seemed a little too slow, too deliberate. When she turned her head, her reflection didn't follow her movements immediately. It lagged, like it was trapped behind the glass, unable to escape. Curious and unnerved, Sarah decided to stand in front of the mirror and smile. She had no reason to feel afraid, yet the chill in the room made her hesitate. The smile on her face was genuine, but the reflection, it didn't smile back. Instead, it twisted. The corners of her reflection's mouth stretched into an unnatural grin, one that looked far too wide, too sharp. It was a smile, but it wasn't her smile. Her heart pounded in her chest as she stared at the reflection that now seemed to mock her. The distorted image of her face twisted grotesquely, its features shifting and warping, as though it were not quite human anymore. The eyes, those cold, hollow eyes, stared back at her, unblinking, unfeeling. The reflection winked at her, its pupils dilating into dark voids, the grin widening until it seemed to consume the entire face. Terrified, Sarah turned away, desperate to break free of the mirror's hold. But the reflection remained. It stayed there, alive, no longer mimicking her movements, but acting on its own. She backed away slowly, her heart racing, but she felt an icy breath on her neck, cold and unnatural, like something, was standing just behind her. Without thinking, Sarah dashed to the wall and yanked a cloth from a nearby table, draping it over the mirror. The room fell into silence, her breathing heavy, her body trembling with fear. She told herself that it was all in her head, that nothing could harm her. But when she awoke the next morning, she found that the cloth had been thrown to the floor, the mirror uncovered once again. The glass shimmered eerily, as though waiting for her. Shaking, she approached it cautiously, expecting to see her own reflection, but instead, the mirror reflected an empty room, except for one thing. A figure stood behind her, one that wasn't in the room. Its form was shadowy, indistinct, yet somehow alive, as though it had been waiting for her to look. The figure's face was obscured, but she could feel its eyes boring into her, through her. She backed away quickly, panic rising, but the reflection in the mirror remained. The shadow began to step forward, its movements unnervingly smooth, like it was made of liquid darkness. It reached out toward her, its fingers stretching unnaturally long, coated in the same dark void, and as it touched the glass, the mirror cracked with a sharp, ear-splitting sound. Terrified, Sarah ran from the room. She didn't stop to grab her coat, her purse, or even her phone. She fled the house, but as she stepped out into the cold night, she realized, she could still see the reflection of the mirror. It wasn't just in the house anymore. It was out there with her. And in that reflection, she saw her own face, twisted in that same grotesque smile, grinning at her from the darkness.